this is Michelle Mardelli, youth worker.
And François Alaudette, family counselor.
And you're listening to Bagot Talk. Today we're receiving Anne-Marie Secord to talk about how landing in Bagotville as an Anglophone is. She's going to be sharing with us all her best tricks and all her funny stories about her 10 years living here in Bagotville. Stay tuned.
What's up, everyone? Once again, welcome to Bagot Talk. How are you, Michelle?
I'm good, you?
You seem funny today. Happy?
I'm always funny, but I am happy.
So why so happy?
Because our dearest friend Anne-Marie is with us today. I'm saying friend, but she's also our colleague. We work with us. She works with us every day. And so François, why don't you start us off?
All right, so let's go and be very frontal at first. Where are you from and in what year were you born?
I was born in 1991. That was
good year.
It was a good year. And I grew up in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Okay.
Yes. And when I went to university, I moved to Ottawa. In 2009.
Okay. And today you're coming to our podcast because you are part of the military life here in Bagotville because your husband is in the military.
Yes, my husband joined in, I think it was 2014.
So for how long have you been together before you joined the military?
Blaine and I were together for 2 years before he joined. So we met in 2011 and then he joined, I think he officially joined in 2014.
Did you grow up in the same city? You said Niagara. Is it Niagara or?
It's Niagara Falls. That's where I grew up. But no, he grew up in Northern Ontario in a place called Manitouwadge. But when he was like 9 or 10, he moved to Angus, which there's also another base, a military base there called Borden.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he grew up around another military base.
So how was the announcement from Blaine to you where, I'm going to join the military? Was it like a path that was always written or a surprise? Or?
It was a complete surprise.
Okay.
His stepdad was in the military, but he had retired and he taught on the military base.
Okay.
But no, his mom came to visit one day and then like a couple weeks later, Blaine was like, I'm going to pay off my student debt and join the military. And I was like, okay, can we talk about it? And he's like, sure.
And then he joined.
Yeah, it's a long process to join. It's like a year or so. You have to do a lot of steps. So I think we talked about that in like May, and then he officially joined in January.
Okay. And did you know like anything about the military life
Nothing.
before? Okay.
Nothing. I knew nothing. I knew like that the base that he lived in with his family. Yeah. But I didn't know anything. I knew nothing.
Okay, so it was like off to a good adventure, and we'll see, and we'll see how it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but do you know that it means something? Like I didn't know anything about the military life before I came here to work at the MFRC. So, do you know how big it is, or how like when you?
I think like the first initial thought of anyone who doesn't know anything about the military is like, oh, you're going to join the military and you're going to go off to war.
Yeah.
Like, it's movie moments.
Yeah.
But, like when you talk about it, and the trade that he joined is very like tech based. It's like if there was a war and he was to go, he'd be like behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Is like more support than. Like, he's not infantry in front of the lines kind of thing. But, yeah, that's the first thought is like, oh, I'm going to live alone for 6 months a year, and he's going to be at war. Yeah. And you know that there's technology, but in your head, you're like, oh, we're going to write letters. You know?
But
just
perfume
like
on it.
Yeah. Silly moments like that. At least that's what my mind went to.
Yeah.
But just like, oh, all of a sudden it's like the 1800s.
And did he have to go somewhere else to make his military
training?
Like his training?
Yeah, so right away he got sworn in January.
Okay.
And then like a week later he went to Saint Jean in close to Montreal.
And that's when you started writing letters.
Yeah.
So how was this first it's 3 months?
I think it was 3 months then. I think it's shorter now.
Okay.
But it was okay. Like the first 5 weeks of basic, you're not allowed to leave the base. So that was a little hard. But after that, we visited on the weekends.
Okay.
So like, I think the first weekend he was allowed, I went to visit. And then like 2 weeks later, he came to visit.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad. And then I got to go see him when he graduated.
Okay.
His whole family went and I went. It was really nice. And then we drove him to then we dropped him off in Kingston for his next course.
Okay. And you were in Ottawa at
Yes.
that time.
Yes.
You were living life.
I was living life. No, I was a bookkeeper and a front-end manager at a grocery store.
Cool.
So I worked like 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I was
Don't
very
have the time
busy.
to write letters.
No letters. And in basically they don't always have their phone. So there wasn't always like communication.
Okay.
But as soon as he went to Kingston, like it was more like he was just on a course from, I think it was like 8 to 4, and he still had to do other military responsibilities after, but he could, you know, text after dinner. We could have a phone call in the evening.
Okay.
So like, how far is Kingston from Ottawa?
It's 2 hours.
Okay.
2 hours.
Okay.
So we didn't have a car then, but they carpooled a bunch.
Okay.
So he visited probably every other weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't.
Okay.
So up to
I say too bad because my life now is very different, but then it was probably quite difficult to not see him every day and then not see him. But there was communication, so that's always helpful. Yeah.
And like, what's the next step? Did you guys live together after a while? What's the timeline?
So we lived together before he joined the military, and then he went to St. Jean, and then he went to Kingston, I think for a year and a half or a year and a bit. He had 2 different courses he had to take. And then after that, we moved here.
Yeah, that's it.
Bagotville.
Okay.
This was his first posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He was a little adventurous, and he put it on his choices.
Okay, so it was a choice.
It was his choice.
Okay.
Like, I remember sitting, like, we lived in this, like, 2-bedroom small apartment in Ottawa, so everything of ours was in our bedroom.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on my bed, which was, like, right beside the computer desk,
of
and him
course.
being like, this is a base, and this is a base, and he was, like, pointing to things, and he's like, this is Bagotville. He's like, we can learn French, and I was like, you're crazy.
We can learn French.
I was like, I don't know French.
Oh.
And so it was also like financially, I was like, if we go there, then we have to financially plan for me not to work. Because that's another thing about if you move here as an Anglophone and you're both working before, when you move here, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to, 1, have a job in the field that you work in, 2, have the same pay. Because Quebec's payroll is different than other provinces, and 2, even be able to get a job. So that was like, so we looked at our finances and we were fine. So we said, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So we put it on the list and it was picked and he was posted here.
What were the other choices? Just by curiosity.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
It's okay.
I know that he wanted to, like, he joined the military to have adventures. So I don't think they were in Ontario.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to
Makes sense.
go out and about.
So how like what were your first impression landing or driving in Bagotville? What's the first thing you
So
thought?
we got the opportunity to come up here to see our PMQ.
Okay.
Usually it's just the military member that comes out, but I had vacation and we drove. So we drove
So
out.
sort of an HTT, I guess?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
There's another acronym for it, but I
Okay.
forget what it is.
Okay.
But we got to come up, and it was okay. Checking into it, my husband got a motel instead of a hotel, so it was a little difficult.
Adventurous.
Adventurous. There was a pool.
What was the hotel motel? Was it?
I don't know what the motel was. It's I've seen it many times.
Oh.
It's like near the old Chocolat Février. No, not the Chocolat Février. Chocolat Lulu. The one that's like all the way along the water.
On the Boulevard Saguenay. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's out there. It has a nice pool and stuff, but checking in was a little scary
Okay.
because he spoke better French than I did. Like
Okay.
he remembered some of his high school French, but so we checked in and it was fine. But then we had to go to like the housing here on base, and they were like, "Oh, you don't speak English, you don't speak French," and that was a little hard. But luckily, they found someone. But all the documents you sign are in French.
Ooh,
For
so
the
you
PMQ
don't
stuff.
know what you're...
Yeah, they like talk about it and they tell you everything. It's probably changed now. Like
Okay.
I moved here 8 years ago.
Okay.
So 8 years would be 2015.
And 15. Yeah,
Quick
so
math.
we got here, like we officially moved here the last week of June in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, we were here for Canada Day. So,
Okay.
yeah. But not St. Jean-Baptiste, so in that week we moved here.
Yeah.
8 years for one posting is a lot.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. And it was supposed to be 5 to 7 years, but then COVID extended it.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to last year, my husband turned down a posting. So
Okay.
So because you enjoy it so much here?
Yeah, we just love it.
So what was like, let's say your first year in Bagotville in, let's say, the 99.9% French region? What difficulties did it brought? What was the...
It was hard,
Yeah.
but like I'm a very outgoing person, so I wasn't willing to just like stay within the English community, and I wanted to really go out. I went on EI for the first 6 months.
EI being?
It's like unemployment pay. It's through the government. It's because I left. If you leave your job to follow your significant other in the Canadian military, it's like if someone loses their job, it's like that pay.
Okay.
So I think I went on it for 6 to 8 months. So that brought me to January. And then I took the summer off, and then I started French class right away in September.
French class here at the MFRC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I took the second. In January, I got a job as a nanny for a family that had 4 kids. And then I still continued French class because it was part-time.
Okay.
So then I took the next level from, I think, January to May, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah. And then...
So you had the full year of French class?
Yep.
And those were like once a week, twice a week, I guess?
No, they were 4 mornings a week.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, they were, I think it was Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 11:30. Yeah, it was more immersed. Like it was very, and my first French teacher didn't speak any English. Like nothing. She could say hello and yes and no. That was pretty much all it. So it was really, for me, it was really good. I know some coworkers of mine took the same class and they struggled, but you had to look like up every single word in the dictionary. And like anything you had to ask or want, even if you had a question about one of the questions on your document, you had to like look up words to ask her the question.
You need to make up the question like in French.
Yeah.
But that's how I learned Spanish in my old classes. That's our teacher was like, I'm only speaking to you in Spanish, and you're like, well, I don't know what you're saying to me.
I remember leaving the classes, like I couldn't do anything after them because it was like 3 hours of pure French, and I remember just laying on my couch for every day for like a solid hour. Like,
for people listening right now, the class has changed. Our teacher right now is amazing, and she does speak French and English, like because those French classes we still offer today.
Yes,
and I guess like. Apart from the French that you've learned, you were looking for that sense of meeting new people. Also, I guess it helped with that.
It was really good. I still know everyone that I met in my first French class. So only one of them still lives here. So yeah, it was really good. I got to meet a lot of people, and we would go out for dinner sometimes. And it felt nice to be with Anglophones, but be able to be in a French community and order all in French. And no one's judging you because you're all struggling.
Yeah,
so that was good. But yeah, the first year was hard, but good. I feel like as an Anglophone, you talk less in the community.
Okay.
So like if you were going to a grocery store and you're like, oh, I'm looking for, I don't know, a can of something. And I remember clearly we were looking for energy drinks for Blaine.
Of course.
And my husband loves energy drinks.
This episode is
brought to you by Monster Energy.
And I was like, I asked, like, do you have Monsters? And he was like, I don't speak English. So I was like, okay, this is my fault. I don't speak their language. Let me just pull up a picture. I was like, this. And he was like, I don't understand you. And so he left. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And it happened
rude.
many, many times. Just like silly things like that. So you kind of just stop asking for help.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, just wander for 20 more minutes. We'll find it. And like, people enjoy small talk. I enjoy small talk.
Yeah.
But in the community, you just like I just did it less and less. Or like someone would drop something and you'd be like, oh my God, I should tell that person that they dropped something, but how do I tell them?
Yeah.
And then this whole thing, and then you end up just like picking it up and giving it to them. And then they're saying something and you're saying something, and I'm just like
smiling.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of little things that people don't think about.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you adapted to that situation with talking a bit less or trying to engage less in those situations.
Yeah.
But did you also have some good opportunities? Like, there's some good people, I guess, that will try to...
One or two.
Yeah, there's some.
But was it always like that, or was it just a few years and you've seen a change through the years, or?
There's people in the community you have to talk to, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're paying for your groceries, there's a lot more self-checkouts now. But like if you're going through your groceries, you have to talk to them. You have to ask for bags. You have to say, oh, debit card, or, you know what I mean? So I think just like the more you did it, the more confident you became. But I still wouldn't go look for someone to ask if they know where something is. Maybe. Like if I'm really struggling, but in English, I would, if I saw someone, I'd be like, oh, I'm looking for this. But now I'd be like, no, I'm just going to keep looking until I'm desperate. So it does get better because you practice so much. But I think your habits do change if you live in a community where you don't speak the first language.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just put headphones and then you just wander in the grocery store looking for something, and
a little bit, and you learn more French, and so you can read the signs. And
grocery stores are hard in French and English. I wander all the time when I speak French.
So like talking about learning French, that's a good chunk of it. And if you manage to work in a French place, I guess that's where it explodes. Like you have so many opportunities to talk French. So after being nanny for this family you talk about, what's the next step? Because you found a job, right?
Yes. So I actually took 3 French courses. I took the first one. I think then they were labeled like AB. And then I took CD with a different teacher who did speak English.
Okay.
She was absolutely wonderful. I still love her. Many people still talk about her.
Okay.
And it was CD, but I didn't feel confident to go on to the next level, so I did CD twice. And that's as far as I went. Yeah. So I did AB and then CD twice.
Because there are different levels.
There is different levels. I think now they go by modules and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was still 4 days a week. I did all 3 of those at 4 days a week. And it was really, really good.
And it's free, right? Was it free then?
I think then...
Right now it's free, but...
I think we paid like $50.
Okay.
And then if you showed up to most of them, you got $25 back or something like that.
Okay.
And it was mostly just to pay for the documents, like all the... Because we got a bunch of workbooks and papers and all that stuff. So I think we got like... We ended up paying like $20, $25. It was nothing for... It had to be like 3 or 4 months, 4 days a week. So it was a really good price. Cool. And I know that childcare was half price too.
Yeah. Still the case.
Still,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So after that, what did I do? So I was the nanny and I did it 2 or 3 times a week. And then one of my friends worked at the MFRC as a receptionist, and there was an emergency case where they needed an emergency babysitter. Yeah. And they had a list here at that time, but there was no one available. So she knew that I was a nanny. So she asked if I was available. So then I went to an emergency nanny or an emergency babysitter position for the MFRC as like, an out person. Yeah. So then I did that. The family reported back, I reported back, and then I came in the next week to get paid. And then Kristen was like, do you want a job? And I was like, oh, like my French isn't that great. And she was like, that's okay. And I was like, okay, sure. And then I think, and then I was called back for an interview. I had an interview with you.
Yeah,
and Kristen.
I was there. Remember that.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
With Kristen.
Yeah, Kristen and Francois did my interview, and they were like, the questions are in French. And I said, okay, but I'm going to answer in English. And they're like, but we're going to ask you in French. And I said, that's okay. Yeah. I can't represent myself well enough to answer in French. And they're like, that's absolutely no problem. We need you to just answer one question in French at the end. Yeah. And then I got hired here.
Yeah. So that was like 6 years ago?
I got hired in 2017.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure you said mine was one of your first interviews that you had to do.
Oh, yeah. I've been working here for like a couple months only.
Yeah. So
working with children, I guess, it's a good way to practice your French also?
Oh, yes, because they don't care. They don't care if you say ton boîte à lunch or ta boîte à lunch. They don't care. They got it. They're going to go get their lunchbox. Yeah. And I had a bunch of coworkers that were either francophones that spoke English really well or completely bilingual. And the programs that I worked, because I worked the preschool program, literally everything you said had to be said in English and in French. Okay. So I learned a lot of words. Yeah. Because if you wanted to say it in English, you had to know the French words first. Okay. So, and then most of the coworkers in the MFRC at that time spoke just French.
Yeah.
So you had to adapt. You had to learn.
If you want to blend in.
Yeah, if you wanted to have like a balance at work and not just hide, I guess, then you had to push. You have to push yourself. And I do feel like that here too. Like, I know that it is nice to come here and have accommodations in English, but the way I always looked at it was like, I'm the problem. Like, I don't speak their language. I'm the problem. But I know sometimes it's hard to get into that mindset because you get there and you're like, why doesn't anyone help me? Like, I'm struggling, then you feel like everything else is the problem and you just need help. Because when you're in a state where you're just lost, it's hard to be like, look from the outside.
Yeah. So. Especially that language barriers are a big thing because there's so many different components to it. And then, as you said, just in the grocery store or just going to talk to a doctor or if you need something, like if you're looking for the potatoes and looking for them, that's one thing. But if you're looking for medical advice.
Oh, yeah. Or like you have to get a health card. You have to get your driver's license.
Yeah.
If you have a car from outside of Quebec, you have to get it inspected before you can get it insured and stuff. And that was scary because they're like, you have to go to this garage. You have to call. And we're like, you have to what? Call in French?
Yeah, because I remember like we've been talking a lot, but you were telling me that a lot of the times what you prefer is places where you can just send either an email or a messenger or something, and then
So since I moved here in 2017, a lot of businesses didn't even. This is gonna sound bad. But a lot of businesses didn't even have like proper websites. Yeah. You couldn't reserve tables for restaurants. Yeah. So then COVID came and everything. COVID was horrible, but COVID came and everything had to be more digital. Yeah. So I don't have to call to make a reservation anymore. I can book it online. Yeah. I don't have to call to make a reservation for like if I need blood work done. It's all done online. I don't have to call if I need. Or I don't have to show up and talk to someone and explain what I need if I need to renew my driver's license. Yeah. Like it's already all the information that they need is already put on the computer and I just click on my options. And then when I get there, I don't need to communicate what I need and what I don't need.
Yeah.
Yeah, you told me the story about the La SAC for your car stuff. Like it used to be you go in this building and then you have 4 options to check. And
I'll remember that forever. We were just standing in front of this like board that had like 5 options and you have to press one of the buttons so you get a number that correlates to the right, so it brings you to the right people. And we were just standing there. We probably stood there quiet for a solid minute. Blaine and I just like looking at the board, then looking back at each other, then like looking at the board. And then this gentleman came over and he's like, oh, you just press this button. Here's your number. And we were just like, merci. It wasn't the right number.
Couldn't be.
But we got up. So that was good. But yeah. And then it worked out, which is a funny story because 2 years later, I found out that because of miscommunication, my birth date was wrong on my driver's license.
So then you can't eat free twice at restaurants.
Well, except I couldn't prove my real birthday. Yeah.
And I feel like it's not... I think that was like this person that you met in this grocery store was like, I don't speak English, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel it's because they're bad person.
Oh, no.
It's just that they get stressed too. They're like, whatever language it is, I don't know nothing about this. But they know the words. They know they just got caught red-handed, I feel.
Yeah. And like without swearing, it's like, well, there's jerks everywhere in every language, in every city. Yeah. It has nothing. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the fact that I didn't speak English. I mean, I didn't speak French. It's just, maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe they're just a jerk.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. There's been a couple moments where, like, you go somewhere and maybe, okay, you guys probably don't do it. But, like, if you're going somewhere, even something like McDonald's, you have to pre-plan what you're going to order so you can say it. And, like, in a way that they're going to understand. And I had, like, a free coffee. And I remember I was like, oh, I have this. Can I get a free coffee? And a guy was like, I don't understand you. And I was like, okay, just like a large coffee, 2 sugar and 2 cream. He's like, oh, I don't understand you. And I was like, okay. Like,
cafe
what do you say,
or
right?
coffee? It's pretty much
like coffee, cafe, 2 sucres, 2 sugars, 2 crème, 2 cream. Like,
right.
It's all the same. Even if you don't speak the language, people order coffee pretty much the same. And he was like, I don't understand you. And he's saying this all in French, probably thinking I can't understand him. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to go get my manager. This is useless. So he goes and gets his manager. And his manager was like, what can I get for you? And I was like, oh, I would just like a coffee, 2 sugars, 2 creams in French. And he was like, oh, no problem. And the young guy, he was young. He comes and he's like, oh, you understood that horrible French? Oh, and the manager was like, take a walk. And the guy left.
Well, okay.
So like, is that because I spoke English? Yeah. Probably not. Was he just being a jerk? Probably. Right? In the moment, like I said, it's hard to take the big picture. In the moment, you're like, oh my God, someone just make me a coffee. Right?
There must be so many examples like these. It's everyday thing.
Yeah, but there's also like great examples of people helping or being like, oh, I'm bilingual. What are you trying to say? I'll help you. Or coworkers. Like they're always happy to be like, oh, I can make that phone call for you. Like you can always find people in your community that's willing to like support and help you. And there's also people even at the MFRC that work here that'd be like, yeah, I'll make a phone call for you even if you didn't work here. Like if you just came off the street and you were like a significant other and you're like, someone help me make this phone call. No one would bat an eye at it. They'd be like, sure. Give me the phone.
Because there is that sense of community and wanting to help out each other, go through whatever you need to go through. If it's just you need help with the language or you need help just in general in life. I feel like there is that sense of community in Bagotville.
Yeah. One time I was on the phone. I got a mattress delivered in a box spring, but the box spring was too big to fit up my stairs. Okay. Because we live in PMQ. So there's like an option to get like 2 smaller ones that make a big one. Yeah. But the company had called me and they're like, oh, we can do this. And I was just like, 1 second. And I like put on shoes and ran to my next door neighbors. And I was like, help. And luckily I knew them. But like the wife that I was friends with wasn't even home. So the husband helped me. But like, yeah, there's definitely people like that would have no problems making a phone call. Yeah. But it is nice that there's so many options to do online now. Yeah. But you still have to make phone calls. But the online booking is
a big game changer. Yeah, for everyone, even for a bilingual or French person, I prefer that.
Yeah, my husband doesn't want to talk to anyone in any language.
Did he learn French while at work? Your husband?
Or is he still like surfing with his French from high school?
No. So he took a French course through the French program for the military. I think he was given 6 months. I'm not sure how many levels he took, but he was in it for 6 months and it was COVID. So he got to do it from home online. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he took exams. So he does have like a French profile on his,
good.
On his military
but
stuff.
He does have like a lot of the Anglophones that we see here at like in the community have a base in French, and sometimes I guess from all those bad interaction they've had with other French people that sometimes they're so scared of just talking in French. And you were saying just before, like talking with kids is easier because they're not gonna judge. They don't care. Most of us also like. I don't care if you say mon boîte à lunch, ton boîte à lunch. Like, François, he's from Saint-Félicien, and he says it wrong also. No, but
just veux dire.
I guess that sometimes some people will try to, as you said, it's hard to put yourself out there and just be that vulnerable in that language.
Like if everyone moved somewhere for even just 2 weeks, not vacation, like not lived in a hotel, like actually had to participate in the community for 2 weeks somewhere that you didn't speak the language, everyone would be much nicer.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Because even like my family in Niagara Falls, my grandmother, she works at Tim Hortons, and years ago she'd be like, oh, like it's the construction 2 weeks. Everyone's speaking French.
Yeah.
I'm just so mentally tired when I come home. And she was nice about it, but you could hear it, like the annoyance.
Yep.
And then as years went on and she's traveled, she's like, oh, why are my coworkers so annoying? Cafe and coffee is the same thing. When you get to see and experience it from the other side, you're like, oh, I was the jerk. I was the jerk.
And we've all been the jerk.
Yeah.
And you do have to put yourself in that immersion, right? Like you said, you started French classes, and the French teacher was purely French.
Yeah.
So you had no other choice than to understand the language. I know that. Is it easy to stay in that Anglophone,
very, very easy
comfort zone, I guess?
Very easy. You can. It's hard because if you don't work, then you don't get out of the English community. Because I personally can't be friends with someone who is completely francophone. I'm happy to hang out with them. I'm happy to communicate with them, but I can't be good friends. I wouldn't call them up. I just, there wouldn't be enough. I don't know. It would be difficult. I guess it would be very difficult. Yeah, there wouldn't be much depth. We could talk, we could hang out. I have coworkers that I want to know how their kids are and how their life is, but I wouldn't be like your husband's struggling. Do you want to talk about it? Because I wouldn't be able to talk about it, and they wouldn't be able to communicate with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But it's very, very easy to find English families and English friends and stay in that English bubble. Yeah, it's very, very easy to do that. But on the military side, though, Blaine did take French course, but he took it in 2021, and we moved here in 2017. So that,
I thought about it. I'm like, it's far.
Yeah, so it was 4 years, I guess, of him working on the base and speaking English, and not he didn't have the opportunity to take the French course. Yeah. So, as a civilian. Well, as a spouse, you can have the MFRC courses. And I know there's some courses offered in the community as well for English.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There's also the here at the MFRC, all our services are in English also, or at least bilingual. Or we try our hardest with the accents that we have. But there is if you don't want to be with us at the MFRC or take the classes from us. Yeah. As you said,
the city offers it.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple places.
It's offered somewhere else or closer to your home, wherever you live. There's also the Eco02 organization. Yeah, that is here.
The nonprofit organization. Yeah.
So then there was a big change because you came in a couple with your husband, and then you became a family, or you had a kid.
Yeah.
Which imply a lot of health system appointments and talking about
giving birth in a francophone.
Yeah, so how was this part, which is super stressful?
I always joke 90% of living here is easy, even if you don't speak French. But there's that 10% that's really hard. Yeah. And then 8% of that is healthcare. Yeah. Because I've been to the emerge myself. I had scarlet fever. Thanks to working with kids. Yeah. I had scarlet fever, and if you're in emerge, you're feeling horrible, right? And I can't bring my husband because he wouldn't be able to communicate it either. Yeah. So I remember, and I had to be I feel like this, and I have this, and you're lifting up your shirt because you have a rash, but you don't know how to tell them, hey, I have a rash, so I'm going to show you. You're
undress
it. You're just hey, yeah. So it's definitely difficult. Healthcare in another language is very hard. Yeah. The emerge. I haven't met a doctor here that doesn't speak English. Okay. I don't think, I think most of the doctors speak English because their paperwork and their
research.
Their studies.
Yeah. Their studies, all their books and their textbooks are all in English. So I've never seen a doctor, but think of all the steps you have to get to the doctor. So you get in and you're lost. You don't know where to go, and you got to take a number, but you got to take the right number. And then you have to go through the paperwork, and then you have to go to the triage nurse, and that's the person that you need to communicate what's wrong. So that was hard. But so that when you're by yourself, it's different. You're representing yourself. But when we went through infertility, so we had to go through the fertility clinic. That's also, it's in the Chicoutimi Hospital. So that it's the same thing. You go up and you have to take a number, and then there's like an office that they're like, oh, do you have an appointment? So all those steps are French, and then you go to the nurse and they're French. Like it's just until you get to the doctor that you can have an English resource, and then all your paperwork's French. So because we did go through infertility, there was a lot of the hospital that I knew, and a lot of this, like a lot of the steps that I knew, and that kind of stuff. So because of that experience, when we did go to have a kid, I was like, oh, whatever. If they speak French, it's fine. If they speak English, it's fine. But it would be scary because the person you're with all day while you're in labor is the nurses. So,
and like, what helped you in that? Like,
so I had lived here for 6 years by then, so my French was much better, and but I did. You can get here if you're looking for resources. You could get a doula who's bilingual, or you could go to the Naissance de Maison.
Naissance.
Yeah, and they do have some bilingual people there. And if you're not comfortable, like they can come with you to the hospital as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think there's resources to get paperwork in English now, and I know that they could get you a translator.
Because Saguenay is getting better.
Very much.
At the, just there's more and more either Anglophones or even people from different ethnicities. Sorry. That are coming here. So Saguenay is adapting right now. Like, we're in 2024, so
yes,
a lot thank God, but a lot has changed in the past years.
Yes.
But it is a slow change.
Yeah, like we always joke like, oh, you just have to get to the doctor.
Yeah.
Like you just have to, right? Like
by all means.
You have to do your best to just get to the doctor, because when you get to the doctor, you can say all the things that you need to say.
Yeah.
But even just like now that I have a daughter, she's almost 2. Like I have to call for all of her vaccines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have to and then they're like, oh, how old is she? When was she born? Does she have any symptoms? You have to be able to answer those questions. And that's scary because if I screw up my healthcare, well, whatever.
Your date of birth.
But when it comes to healthcare for your child, that's another thing too.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
I know we have a sort of a booklet that has a lot of that you can take to the emergency or to your doctor's appointment.
It's like a lexical with the French and English transition. So like if you want to say that you have a big headache, then you have what is the correct word to say it in French.
And there's pictures.
Yeah, pictures are good.
Ooh, pictures.
Yeah, there's like a whole body picture, and then you can
point, please?
It says pain, sharp, and then you can just point to the word in English and French. And it is a good tool that you could use.
It's free for whomever is listening to this and wants it.
And if you ever need to make calls, people here can help too. But the healthcare system is the hardest part. It's the scariest part because, well, that's important. Like if I screw up that I need an oil change, because I still to this day cannot say oil or tire correctly in French because those words are hard.
Oh, in French they say tire.
Oh,
it's okay. Mechanical stuff, you're good.
the mechanic will come out and be like, "Oh, so you might need a new this." I'm like, I couldn't even understand that in English, so
And then we'll say, but in Saguenay, the French is not the perfect, the most.
Sometimes in Saguenay, they
French.
speak very fast.
They speak fast and with the fashion.
Fashion. They speak with fashion.
They speak fast and with a thick accent.
They do have a thick accent,
Even I'm from Montreal. I learned French in Montreal. It's my first language. And when I came here, there's a lot of expression that I didn't know about. Yeah. I'm like, what's a cutter?
What is it?
It's actually... So we'll do this, but back in the days, the people who were working constructions and were setting up the margins of where you need to cut to do the trottoir, sidewalks, they would write with paint or something, cut here.
Oh.
And the people working constructions who are purely francophone would read this, cut here, and say cutter.
So the person is now called a cutter.
But now that line there is called a cutter. And that's just to see like how big like French is, like how strong French is in the region, is that they won't buck from learning cut here and just say cutter. Yeah.
We're strong people.
Yeah.
So, like, now that you've been here for 8 years?
Yes, almost.
What do you wish you knew before coming in Bagotville? Is there something you said, oh, if only I knew this or that, it would have been so much easier? What, do you have any
tips? Or
I think I wished that I would have learned French, but I think that's irrelevant. I think coming here, you just have to be an open mind, and if possible, like, try to give everyone grace, because it sounds like, it does feel like you're alone. Like you're, at least when I came here, Blaine and I, like, we were just together. We weren't married. We were just together, and you get here and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because not only are you in this French world, you're also in a new base, new people, new friends, like everything's new, right?
Yeah.
Even if you do speak French, moving here, it could be scary.
And lonely.
And hard. And I guess the best advice I have is just go do things. Like, try to, like, go to the library or join things at the MFRC. Or there's a lot of things that PSP offers. There's yoga classes and stuff like that. Try that. Go to free swim on, like, if you want to stay just in the MF, like the community on base, that's okay too. But just get out there and see people and but it's still scary.
Of course. And could you find, like, what is the biggest upside of Bagotville? What's the best thing about it?
Apart from meeting us.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Do you think that, like, we often call the Bagotville PMQs or the Bagotville community the small village Gaulois, I don't know how to translate it. It's a small village in the middle of a whole French community, and I know there's a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that. Is there a strong community thing? Is it?
Yeah, so there's there's a French page and an English page on Facebook, but everyone I know, no matter the language you speak, is on both.
Yeah.
It is a good community. Like, if you need help with something, people are willing. Dogs always run away. And they're like, oh, like, if you lost your dog, you will find it very fast. And if you found a dog, you will find its home very fast. It is a good community. Like, everyone is always willing to help, and it's a safe community. Like, kids play in the streets, and the rent is cheap in the queues.
Well, of course.
Compared to, let's say, British Columbia.
The cost of living here is wonderful. That is a very, very good reason. Like, it is a good positive thing. That is one of the reasons that my husband turned down a posting last year.
Yep.
Also, childcare is very good price and
hard to find, but good price.
Hard to find, very good price, very good. The people are awesome. You get more money from the government in Quebec for having kids too. There's a lot of things to do in the community, especially if you're outdoors people. There's like hundreds of nature trails or parks or activities. There is a lot of family-oriented things here, which is really nice. Now that I have a kid.
You have access to those.
But even before I had a kid, like, Blaine and I would always go to, like, Rivière du Moulin. It's like the nature trails. It's right near Walmart on Talbot. And it's, like, in the middle of the city, but you would just pull in, and then there's, like, kilometers and kilometers of walks and trails. You can go bike riding, or I think you can rent, like, canoes and kayaks and stuff.
You can.
We used to go there once or twice a week. We love it. So there is a lot of things to do in the community. We're not winter people.
Hey, me neither.
But there's a lot of winter sports too. Like, if you're willing and you put yourself out there, you could find something new to do every day for a whole year. Like, there's so much to do in the community.
Are there places, as you being an Anglophone, that you recommend? Like, going there is easy. Going there is, like, if you want to tip your toe in the water, or
dip your toe in the water.
Dip.
To, like, practice French,
I guess, or just, like, places that
like a safe space
a safe space where you're like, oh, this place I've been a couple of times, or you went to the library. Are there English books? Are there?
In Jonquière, there's a library, and I guess all upstairs is all English.
Oh, cool.
So it's pretty calm. My coworker actually just told me she takes her kids there once a month, and they go hang out upstairs. And because there's less people upstairs, then they don't have to worry about your kids being quiet. So that's good.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter and I go to the library all the time. It's really fun. She's 2 and cute, so she can be loud and run around. So it's different if you have like a 7-year-old.
Or your
cute.
baby is ugly. You can't do it.
There's no such thing.
To practice French, I would just say like local cafes are really good. I can't think of their names right now, but a couple of years ago, me and my friend, every Friday we went to a different local cafe.
Yeah.
And they don't mind if you are not speaking perfect French. You're like supporting a small community, like a small business. Yeah. And you can sit and you can usually the waiters are pretty open to talk and chat if you want.
Cafe, latte, these are good.
And the words are not too hard, and you can always point. But if you did want to practice, that's what I would recommend, like little local cafes, and there's lots. But even if it's not a local cafe, like if you went to like a big chain like Starbucks, they're happy to listen and communicate, and they're fine with it. If you don't drink coffee, there's like bubble tea places. They would talk to you if you wanted to practice French. But if you just wanted a quiet place, I don't know. I don't do quiet.
That's funny. And I feel like I don't come from an English backstory. Or like my family is not English at all. And I feel like the second language learning in here, like in Quebec overall, is pretty good. But like for the English, I feel like everyone goes out of high school with a correct amount of English. It's just a matter if you care about it or not.
Yeah, it's always like, I think it's always a matter of like, do you want to try? It's a matter of intent. Like, do I want to try to understand you even if you're speaking another language? And that's how like you're going to be able to understand people or feel or make other people feel comfortable in talking to you and being open to that conversation, because communication is 90% nonverbal. So at that point, the words are just...
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I don't understand the words that people are saying. And I'm like, oh.
Just nod.
Well, you pick... Like, if you only understand 2 or 3 words in a sentence, you can usually, like, piece it together. Yeah. You just try your best.
And then if we had to finish on that note, like if you had a message or something to say to people who are coming in right now or have been here for a year or 2 or are struggling a bit, do you have like a phone number people can read? No.
Anyone can always message me. I am very open.
You're like a veteran.
We used to have... When I moved here, actually, someone was diagnosed. That's not the right word. When I moved here, someone was Blaine's like designated person to talk. Okay. So before I moved here, I joined the Facebook group and I found a friend. And actually, before like the weekend that I moved here, they visited me in the hotel. Okay. So it was great. And, like, sometimes you're not going to be friends with that person for long term. But it was great to have someone. And they always were like, oh, did you try this, you know. And it was really nice to have, like, a person that you knew here before you moved. And I've done that for lots of people. Even if they're not my friends or, like, they don't end up being my friend in the end. But I help them find people that they might be friends with. Yeah. I would recommend joining the Facebook group before you come. And if you've been here for a long time, like, if you're looking for people... Like, if you're looking for a hobby or someone to be friends with, there's lots of people on that group. Yeah. And you can also post anonymously if you have questions and concerns. That's a nice tool to have. Yeah.
And then I guess participating here in the activities, like, not because I want to, like, I'm not pushing our activities to you guys who are listening to us right now. That's not my goal. But I've seen people take good things out of it coming here, either to our parents and tots if they have children, or we're pushing more and more on our adult activities also, so people can meet other adults through these activities. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know that a lot of Anglophones are sometimes scared to participate to the activities because it will be only French.
Oh yeah, that's very scary. Very scary. Like, so I moved here, it was like we were just together, then I got married, and then we had kids. So like there's like 3 separate stages. So like when you're new and everything's exciting and then you've been here for a long time, finding different activities that either support you as an individual or you as a couple.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing when you have a family. It's like activities that support you as a family, then you as an individual, and then maybe just activities that my husband doesn't want to go to, then me and my daughter, you know, like there's a lot of different, or like date night. So that's like supporting different little pieces. And it is scary. When I came here with my daughter, and I worked here, but I was off for a year before I had her. Well, I was pregnant, so I stayed home. And then I had her, so I was off for almost 2 years. When I came here for Parents and Tots, it's a wonderful program. There's always lots of parents. But I remember one day it was 2 francophones and me. And I hadn't spoken much French in a year, but it is a little nerve-wracking. So if you come and you don't speak English and the people who come are all francophones, don't be discouraged because the clientele changes so often. So if you do come to a program, say a craft night or Parents and Tots, or even PSP, you go to like a yoga class, the clientele changes so often that even if you do feel like, oh, I didn't talk to anyone because everyone was a francophone, don't be discouraged to come back again. Because next week, it might be all Anglophone. So that's one thing that I would say in this community. Like, don't be discouraged if it's just one time. It is uncomfortable, but, like, try to go again.
Yeah, those are good words. I think it sums up pretty much what we had to talk.
Of course,
I feel like it's going to be so helpful. It's full of hope.
Or
I feel like a preacher.
So thank you, Anne-Marie, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And then we'll see you maybe in another episode.
Goodness, lucky me.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. And
stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Bagot Talk.
Follow us on our Facebook page, Placket à Bagot Talk Podcast.
See you soon.